Go. Okay. Okay, good evening. I'll just give everyone a few minutes. Okay, some people on already. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I see Mandy's here. It's Wednesday evening. It's Real Women, Real Stories of Infertility. Tonight we're chatting to Brad and Mandy from Believe Again. Mandy, I see you've joined us already. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes for everyone to join, and I see a couple of people are joining, and then I'm going to send you an invite to join. So thank you for joining, everyone. We have Vivian and I think it's Zolile, Shashwari, Maruga. We're just waiting on a few people to join us. I think I'm about 2 minutes or so too early. But thanks, guys, for joining. We'll just wait around a little bit. But yeah, so I don't really know Mandy and Brad's story. And I'm really interested yet. I've been seeing the books around all over, and so I really can't wait for this story. And the nicest thing or the most amazing thing about the story is that that they actually had the baby in the end. They've got a 3-year-old little boy. I know his name is Seth. So I'm very interested and excited to hear. So Mandy, I think we've got a few more. Hi, Eslin. Eslin's always here. Thank you for the support, Eslin. And Aya, I've got Aya here as well. And Merweda, I've got you joined us as well. So Mandy, I'm going to send you an invite now, and we can have a quick chat before I'll wait for everyone to join. So excited. I think she's coming on now. Waiting for Mandy. There we go. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Are you guys well?
We are good. Thanks for having us.
It's a
Yeah,
pleasure.
awesome.
Thank you for joining us. All the ladies here. And yeah, it's like I was just saying that it's been a while. Sorry, I've been seeing your books for a while and wanting to get the story, and I'm always just logging on just at the when you guys are almost done with a video or something. So I'm so glad that you guys have finally joined us. Apologies for the dogs in the background. I'm in the
It's
bathroom
okay.
today. So, this is how it goes these days with lockdown and everything.
Yeah, and everything being
Yeah, so,
live and online.
yeah. So what are you doing tonight? Because I know you've got a 3-year-old. I've also got a 3-year-old. How do you do this?
So we are so fortunate that we actually have someone on the property who also serves as a nanny, which is
Oh,
awesome. And he loves her. He loves her to bits. So it's a matter of please go visit Auntie Beulah and off he goes, and then we can have our interview times. So yeah, we've been very
okay.
fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, and I've got to bring my mom down wherever she is. Like, just come. You got to do it 8 o'clock because my husband works 24 hours.
And they're
Anyway,
busy at three
yeah,
years old. They're busy at
yeah,
3 years
very.
old.
Very
Really.
busy. So, yeah, thanks guys for joining. I'm really interested to hear your story. Tonight's Real Women, Real Stories, we have Mandy and Brad. I am right, Brad?
Yes,
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
correct.
Brad from Believe Again. And yeah, so what we do with Real Women, Real Stories, there are so many women that's dealing with infertility, and sometimes you just need somewhere where you can just talk about it and also at some point I always say that it's a way for others to heal when they are dealing with infertility, to get it out there, and just to give hope to another person that's dealing with infertility, another woman, to let them know that they're not alone. There are so many others dealing with it,
Yes.
and we want to say that we are here for each other, for women that's going through it, because
Right.
you can't just talk to anybody about it unless the person is actually going through the journey. Because the
Right.
worst thing you can hear from somebody not going through the journey, and you talking to someone about them and saying, "Oh no, I know what you're feeling." How you no, you don't know how I'm
No,
feeling
you don't.
because you are not going through it. So please don't say that to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't wait to hear your story, and I think you guys can, just introduce yourself and talk about what it is that you do, and tell us your story.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Leanne. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this platform to speak to a different audience. We also have our own little audience going on Facebook, which is where you've seen our live videos. But really, this is an amazing opportunity because I don't think that we talk enough about it, specifically in the South African context and Africa context, in fact. And it's such an important conversation to be having because there's such a huge stigma attached to being infertile, not being able to conceive, the barrenness
Yeah.
of the woman, the shame that comes with being barren and not being able to conceive. And a lot of the times, the frustrating part is when you're being diagnosed with unexplained infertility. You know, I speak to so many women, and one of the first questions I ask is, what have you been diagnosed with? Because it was probably only a couple of years into us trying to conceive that we found our diagnosis. But for a long time, we were undiagnosed. And the
Yeah.
frustration that comes with it, like, are we doing something wrong? Do we
Yeah.
perhaps not know how to do it? Like, are we supposed to be turned upside down? I don't know. And of course, you know, all the crazy advice that people give you, go away for a weekend away, have this to drink, cleanse yourself with that. And there's so many crazy things that people speak about. But to come back to our journey, and I'm glad that Brad is here with me because his journey, you know, I really, really thought that it was my journey until Brad started constructing, you know, in the book that we've co-authored, when he started putting down his thoughts and his feelings, I was like, wow, you were really going through your own journey. And it
Yeah.
really only hit the mark with me then that he had gone through his own experiences and I was just aloof to it, to most of it, in fact. I thought it was
Yeah.
all about me, and it really is a couple's journey at the end of the day. And I think the half the problem sometimes, quite honestly, in what I've seen and felt, is that agreement plays a huge part. Agreement in the journey plays a huge part. There's just way too many men not wanting to go to the doctor, not wanting to be
Yeah.
tested themselves. And that might be half the problem right there, solved. Do you know what I mean? If the
Yeah.
man actually got tested. So
Yeah.
we got married. We were dated for 3 months. We engaged for 3 months, and we got married. The
Yeah.
intention was not to have a child in the first year. I mean, we were getting to know each other. We were loving married life. You know, date nights, weekends away. We were loving life. And
Yeah.
probably a year in, we went off contraception. And at our 2-year wedding anniversary, we were like, perhaps we need to see a gynae. And
Yeah.
that's what we then did. And we probably saw in the first year a couple of gynaes.
We did, but I think maybe just backtrack a little bit. I think that a lot of people thought getting married so quickly after being engaged, are you pregnant?
Right.
Oh, wow.
So we were also very deliberate in terms of not wanting to have a child in the first
Yeah.
year,
Right.
just sort of to hush all that unsolicited attention from the outsiders as to why are you getting married so quickly? Not
Yeah.
realizing,
Yeah.
of course, at the age of 32 that you know what you want out of life. So when you meet the right person, you're ready to make that decision and move on.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
we, what, 11 years this year?
Right.
Okay.
27 April 2010. Yeah.
It's,
We'll be
I just
11.
want to, before I forget, and say that it's so nice to have. I never have a couple on, never ever had a couple. So kudos to you, Brad. Thank you for joining us. It's so nice, and it is a couples thing. It's not just on your own. You cannot do this on your own. So
Right.
yeah, I don't want to mess in your mouth. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, like Mandy said, it definitely is a couple's journey.
Yeah.
And the only reason I went along in the beginning was because I was trying to be strong for Mandy.
Yeah.
Because as we have been stigmatized through the generalization stereotypes out there that infertility is the lady's problem and
Yeah.
there's probably something wrong with her. And so I was psyching myself up to be moral support for Mandy. And when we got to our first fertility specialist, I was very surprised that they wanted a semen sample from me. Like, I was not prepared for that.
It was like,
They,
what?
No,
Me?
nobody.
What?
I don't think any guy is prepared for that, eh? No, none of them.
Absolutely. So that caught me completely off guard. Fortunately, you didn't have to produce the sample on the day. You actually needed
Yeah.
to have a 3-day window from your last ejaculate to have a good sample that can be tested and to give you an accurate result. And then obviously Mandy was also signed up for her own battery of tests as well. And this was now the discovery phase. So we went into that consult, and I think I had my first test done, and Mandy was fortunately there. We joke about it.
I had to lend a hand.
She had to lend a hand.
Well done.
This is adults here,
Well
right?
Yep.
Because I was looking at that nurse and like, I don't want the magazine.
Yeah.
So fortunately, she was there because it was actually a very daunting experience having to now produce a sample and knowing that it's going to go off to some lab, and but I'm still not thinking the worst about it or anything like that. And Mandy had her test, and I was employed in the medical scheme industry at the time. So I have a background of approximately 19 to 20 years in the medical scheme industry. And so I knew how it worked in terms of I could call the labs directly, tell them what I wanted, and as the patient, I was entitled to that information. And normally you would wait for the doctor's rooms to call you to tell you your lab results are in and doctor would like to see you.
Right.
So I called the lab and said, please send me my results. And because it's my information, they sent it to me. And I think that was probably the biggest mistake that I made, because when I opened up my email sitting in my office, I wasn't prepared for the result that I had gotten. And that was that I was diagnosed with a low sperm count. The quality of my sperm wasn't great. So the shape of the sperm's heads was not quite the right shape, which meant that they couldn't penetrate the egg during conception, as well as they were slow swimmers. So all of that added up. The one-liner at the lab technician's report remark indicated the prognosis for conception is poor.
Yeah.
And that just like was like the rug being pulled from underneath my feet.
Brad was shattered.
And I actually broke down in my office. Like I had to get up and lock my office door because I wasn't expecting that. And I couldn't even get myself to calling Mandy. And I suppose in that moment, I was going through all these emotions that the reason we haven't conceived in the last 2 years, and the first year being that we were off contraceptive, was because I was actually the problem. And all that being Mr. Nice Guy and going to be moral support for Mandy actually just came and haunted me in that moment, that I'm actually the problem and not her. Obviously, at that stage, we hadn't had her results back yet. And the likelihood of thinking that, the problem could be on both sides didn't even occur to me at that time.
Yeah, and I think with my results, I literally went for blood tests, all the hormones that they check, thyroid that they check, and then the HSG I had done. And those all came back normal on my side. So out of that sort of battery of tests, we were like, so it's the sperm. And like Bradley said, he shouldn't have probably opened up that document, because when we did consult with the doctor, he was like, I'm putting on some zinc tablets, 3 months from now, you'll be good to go. And so we then went with that, and then of course just continued to try normally. And of course months went by and still nothing. And then, as most ladies would know, if you're suffering with infertility, one of the first lines of treatment is the whole Clomid or Fertimid, because they hadn't picked up any pcos, they hadn't picked up any. I mean, I was a 28-day cycle girl, bled for 7 days. Can I say those things on this platform?
Yes, of course.
So and that's so I was normal in what I thought was normal. And we then did the Clomid. I turned into a bit of a Cruella de Vil. It affected my hormones. So you know what I'm talking about? I was like, wow.
It was crazy.
Poor me.
I mean, all he heard at the doctor's rooms was, you guys need to increase your frequency if you're trying to conceive. And he was like, yes. And the hormones kick in, and I was like, wow. So that wasn't working for us. Okay, that wasn't working for us. And even when I went for my scans, there were multiple eggs, and we're like, wow, we're going to have twins. We're going to have multiples. We're in it to win it. I wanted 5 kids before I got married, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
big dreams, big dreams. And so we did that for about 2 months. And normally they put you on a 3-month cycle. I was like, I'm done. I can't do more than 2 months. I'm going crazy. I'm going off my rocker. This is not on. And
Yeah. Yeah.
further to that, then, of course, again, also just trying naturally, we decided, you know what, let's give this thing a break. And I think Brad decided to whisk me away for a little weekend away one December. It was December 2013.
Mhm.
And we went away to warm baths, and I was returning to work the first week of Jan. So we decided to have a little breakaway, and that was good for us, and we kind of got our mind off things. But you know what New Year's like for a couple trying to have a child, like every New Year's Eve, it's like, this is
We're
gonna
gonna
be,
do it.
it wasn't this year, but next year's our
Yeah.
year,
We can
next
have our
year's our
baby. Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And yeah, and January came around, January 2014. We back at work, and I called Brad. And I'm like, Brad, I think I'm a day late. No, this is me not knowing any better. I'm like, I'm a day late. I think I need to have a test done. And he picks me up that afternoon from work, and he's got the test with him. And I literally ran to the first public toilet. Like this, I'm not waiting till I get home. I'm one day late.
Yeah.
We've been trying for 3 years at this stage. I'm running to the public toilet, and I come out, and I'm like, there's two faint lines. I don't know what it means, but it looks good.
Yeah.
It looks good. So off we went, and again, like Brad said, he's in the medical aid scheme field. So we go off to
Lancet,
Lancet.
because you don't need a doctor's referral to get a blood test done for pregnancy. You can just check yourself in there, do the
Yeah.
test, you pay as a cash patient, and then you get the results. Obviously, they don't interpret the results for you. You need to take that to your doctor. But again, I was able to do that. And so off we went, got the test done, went and picked up the results within an hour or two. And I said to her, we are pregnant. However, we need to do another test within 2 days to make sure that the pregnancy hormone has been more than doubling,
Right.
which we did. And it was then only after the second test that we called our gynae at the time, or Mandy's gynae at the time, to advise him that we think we are pregnant. And we then made an appointment to see the doctor around, I think, 8 or 9 weeks only, because they said to us it would be pointless coming before then because you won't be able to hear the heartbeat. So appointment was set, ready, and also doc was fully booked as well. So I think our appointment was probably also just off the 8 to 10 week mark because doctor was so fully booked. And that was then us. I think with that night we got into our car and we went to every single immediate family member's home to share the great news. And our families actually live about 30 kilometers out on Mandy's side, and then my family's another 30 kilometers out in the opposite direction.
As well.
So it was crazy, and we did like a lot of driving that night, and I think we probably got home like 10, 11 p.m. After going and sharing the good news, and everyone was so excited because it had been a journey for probably 3 years at that time.
Yeah, and so come my birthday, being the 28th of Jan, so remember, first week into Jan, we find out that we are pregnant by this pregnancy test that we do, and come 28th Jan, I start spotting, which some people say is quite normal. So I'm like, you phone your mom, phone the auntie, phone the sister, and we phone the doctor, because Brad is like, we need to phone the gynae, and the gynae says, you better come and see me. And we did. On my birthday, 28th Jan, I'm laying on the table, on the gynae's table, and she does the scan and announces probably the worst thing that any parent could, wants to hear, is that there's no heartbeat. And further to no heartbeat, there's a sac, but the sac seems to be empty. So what I was diagnosed with was what they call a blighted ovum. Not knowing what this meant for me, being in complete denial. This cannot be, it cannot happen to us. We've been waiting for 3 years at this stage. What is a blighted ovum? And she gives us the options of, you would then either naturally begin to miscarry, or we need to do then the evacuation. And I said, again, in absolute denial, we will carry this child. I don't believe it. I will not miscarry, and we're going to go and get a second opinion. The second opinion came, and it was exactly the same diagnosis. And I think a week or so after that, I did start bleeding, and they then had to evacuate baby. And baby's name was Judah. We had named baby when we found out that we were pregnant. And as much as that was, I mean, it's horrific, it's sad, it's excruciating. I sympathize with any woman that has lost their child, whether 6 weeks or 16 weeks. It is an excruciating experience, and there's just way too many miscarriages out there. It breaks me that women have to go through this, and it's a loss. It really is a loss. And but what Judah did do for us, really my glimmer of hope, what he did do for us is that he reminded us that we could conceive naturally. Because we weren't on any meds, we weren't going on any treatments. We had conceived Judah naturally. And that is kind of the glimmer that Judah had given us, and we held on to that. And we literally had to hold on to that for another 4 years, because after that we were diagnosed with 2 different diagnoses for me, which was excruciating again, because not only was I diagnosed later with endometriosis, stage 4. Stage 4, as a matter of fact, I mean, he couldn't cut away everything. He actually had to leave some behind because it was quite an intense surgery. So they had done it laparoscopically, fortunately. So there wasn't too much, recovery time and too much cutting involved in terms of, the incisions. So that was done. So endometriosis, and actually just prior to endometriosis, I was actually diagnosed with early ovarian aging. So my eggs were aging at a rapid rate. Doc kindly, he said to us, you don't have many golden eggs left. In fact, I give you 1% chance of conceiving, and then sent us off to go and see someone about possibly getting a surrogate or egg donor or adoption.
Wow.
That
I think I think as sorry to break your word again, but I think as soon as a doctor says that to you, it's like the worst thing you can hear, because they've given up. It's almost as if they give up hope. So like, how can you now still go on and carry on your journey if your doctor, a specialist in the field, has now just given up hope on you?
Right. And we literally gave ourselves, I think, a 2-year break after that. I was like, I don't want to see a doctor. I don't want to be scanned. I don't want to be tested. I've done. We're just going to trust God. And like Judah came naturally, our next child will come naturally. But of course, the years progressed, right? Because since Judah came, there was 4 years that then went by, 2 diagnoses later. And eventually we did find a gynae, and someone had suggested him to us, and he's a combination of, I mean, he's not even a fertility specialist. And when I saw him and we shared our story with him, he had so much compassion, so much sincerity. He gave us hope again. He said, look, there's no miracle that I'm offering you, but can I please do a laparoscope? And that's when he found the endometriosis and cleaned that away. And fortunately with that and the treatment, which was a 7-month, well, it wasn't supposed to be 7 months, but he gave me a Zoladex injection, which was supposed to last a month, just to sort of get rid of the last of the endometriosis. I was without menses for 7 months. And every month we would have a test done, because he was like, you could be pregnant. You could be pregnant.
That's what the clinical trial information showed on the medical insert that comes with that medication, that you could conceive while being on the Zoladex. However, it was unlikely, because it actually puts you into early menopause.
I was getting hot flushes.
So I said to Mandy, we don't have to worry about day 14 anymore.
No,
and time
you just
around
gotta
that.
Keep going.
Every day is baby making time.
Lucky you.
And you see the big smile. He was like, happiness.
Yeah.
And I'm just like buying pregnant. Every time we go to Clicks, it's a pregnancy test.
Pregnancy test, yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't know what the difference between day 14 and day 30 was. Like, we were just like, let's just test. And that was for a full 7 months. And in January, of course, come my birthday again, I was turning 39. And we always said we'd never really go the IVF route, not because we have anything against IVF. IVF has done amazing things for many women, and we are grateful we were worried about the cost. I was like, you can take that money and take me to Thailand. Like, I'm all good with that. We are not spending that kind of money, but we were still believing. We were still believing.
Yeah.
And so came my birthday, age 39, and Bradley says to me, Mandy, there is, what is it, a semi-private, or what do they call it?
So at the Steve Biko Fertility Center in Pretoria, it's a state facility, but it's almost semi-private in terms of the IVF procedure is you have to fund it yourself. However, the cost at the time was less than half of what you paid in the private facilities. I think around that time it was around 75K, and the total cost at Steve Biko would probably have amounted to around 30K, but you needed to meet the clinical entry criteria, and the cutoff age was 40.
Right.
So we needed to get a referral from our doctor there with our previous medical history, and they then would determine if we would make the entry criteria. So we scheduled our appointment, we sent through all the documents, and we then were accepted as meeting the criteria, and we saw doctor. And again, I was given a cup, and Mandy was being examined separately this time around. And when we finally got together in the same room with the doctor, the doctor then was telling us that our conception chances are very low given our clinical history, diagnosis both sides as well as our age, and she would recommend that we go straight away into IVF.
Yeah,
as we have already exhausted all other options. So we've tried natural, we've tried artificial insemination.
Oh, right. I forgot to mention that. We tried that as well, artificial
timed
insemination.
ovulation, the works, and she said to us that she normally doesn't go straight into IVF. However, in our case, we've done everything else. We're definitely going to start in that route. And she said to us, we also need to do so ASAP because she's concerned that Mandy's endometriosis is returning because when she did the internal exam, she saw a cystic mass.
Right.
And it looks like the endometriosis is growing back. And with that then, she said to Mandy, what's your age? What day are you on your cycle? And when Mandy then mentioned, she was, I think, on day 30.
Day 30, yeah.
And it only dawned on us then that we were actually late. 2 days late, and she then said to us, please go do this pregnancy test, and off Mandy went, came back
to a public toilet
in the hospital.
In the hospital.
What's your problem with the public toilet, girl?
Impatience.
And Mandy came back with the test results, and she said, well, the lines are faint, but it looks like you're pregnant, and all naturally. And she was more excited than us because she
we
said
were in disbelief
that she's never encountered this before, where someone comes with this type of prognosis and sitting there pregnant already. But she sent us for blood tests just to confirm, and she personally called us back when the lab got the results into her within 2 hours to congratulate us, and said to us, we can either come back or we can go to our own gynae for further management. So we elected our own gynae because we're based in Johannesburg, and the drive to Pretoria that day was probably a 2-hour commute because before lockdown, traffic was a thing that we lived under. So that's how we conceived naturally. Got the good news while in an examination room, getting ready to start the IVF journey.
That was your faith, eh? That's all just faith.
You know what? If people ask you what did it come down to, that is literally the only word I can answer to you. God has been faithful towards us, and we're just super grateful that we have our miracle and we have our testimony, and we can, offer encouragement and hope to others.
And of course, faith without works is dead. So you need to act on that faith as well.
But I mean, it happened. It's crazy that it happened in a fertility clinic. You have to go there, and that's where they tell you, but you're pregnant. You're just about to start, like you're on the last. That is. So I've got goosebumps. Listening to the story.
Talk
it's
about
like
11th hour. It was literally an 11th hour thing, because when I had prayed about baby, I was like, Lord, if I don't have a child by the age of 40, I'm going to have to, not that adoption should be a secondary thing, but I was ready to adopt. And Brad was always like, we are not going to adopt. I want my own child. But I was like, but I want a child. And when it comes to adoption, I'm okay with it. But that was a bargain that I made. Not that we should bargain with God, but that is the bargain that I made. And he kind of showed up because IVF wasn't really part of our plan. This was our last action of desperation. That's what it was.
Wow. I'm just thinking, like, you said that prayer with me. I prayed. I don't know if you heard my story, but just before Liam came into our lives, I was standing outside one day and I just given up and I said, okay, enough is enough. And I stood and I prayed and I said, Lord, wherever my child is right now, keep him safe. And that was my prayer. And I said, I don't know where that prayer came from. But about 2 weeks later, I got that call and said, there's a baby boy for you. So yeah, and yeah, there was a whole lot of things about that story. But I mean, I'm just reflecting back on your story. It's exactly just that. He was like waiting for you guys. We're not turning it into a biblical thing, guys, but just like when you're standing in awe of God's greatness and God's amazing faith, it's overwhelming for someone to go through something like that, and on the last and in that fertility clinic, and you're standing there, like you're on your last, and it makes you go just until you can't anymore, just until okay, you've had enough.
That's
You've had
exactly
enough.
where we were at. We were at the end. We were literally at the end.
I'm blown away, guys. I'm absolutely blown away.
So when people say I'm giving up, like, you don't even know what the end is, baby girl. Like, you haven't reached your end yet. So I really just want to inspire and bring people hope that you are not at the end as yet. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's a hard journey. But find communities like this, real women. Find communities like this, and men who would share their story with you. I think, one of the things that Brad and I found in our journey, we were like, we wish someone would share their story with us. Why won't people talk about it? You see the pictures on Facebook, you see the wedding, and then you see 5 to 10 years later, okay, there's a baby, and you wonder what the story was. But no one's willing to tell you. No one's willing to open up about the story, that it was a struggle for them. And I just wish more people would share their story. And so even when we decided... when we decided to write the book, I said, that story is going to be that story that we wished a couple would have shared with us. Because that's what we wanted to be for someone else. Let us be the story where we just share openly about what the struggles is about infertility.
Especially on the male front, because men don't want to speak about anything that questions their manhood and their virility. So breaking that stigma alone was also sort of where I was coming at, because it really emasculated me as a man getting that diagnosis. And if it's like Mandy said with Judah, if we didn't conceive naturally within that period, I probably, my self-esteem was already in the gutter, and it probably would have just gotten worse after that. And I think that a lot of men probably avoid this journey because they don't even want to find out that they could possibly be the problem.
Right.
And the thing is, it's a couple's journey. It's not just about the woman having to go to the gynae alone. So I always went along for every gynae consult. One, because someone was looking in my business, and then secondly, someone needed to hold the panties because they don't put they don't have a place there.
Where do you put your panty? Fold it nicely in between, put it in the pocket. What are you supposed to do?
So that was my role, basically. And then Mandy would get so emotional that she couldn't really speak to the doctor with every consult because it was just so invasive. And then for me, it was easy to have the conversation because I understood the clinical landscape and I could phrase the questions and ask advice in terms of what to do. Because I think that's also part of the problem, is that the one person goes and then they're not able to engage with the doctor afterwards in terms of what next. They're still trying to take in all of the information and also just that experience.
And just getting out of that consult room. You just want to be over and done with it.
So it's so important that there's two people in where one person can at least be level-headed and just have the conversation.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And don't you feel that after you've been through a journey like this, like you as a couple, you come out so much stronger. It's like we can take on anything now. Like this is nothing for us, you know.
Right.
You can go through
Right.
anything.
Right.
I mean, you've been through infertility, you know.
Right.
So that's the
Right.
amazing thing about it. But Mandy and Brad has a book, Believe Again. So please tell us about the book.
It's you. So it's called
Awesome.
it's called Believe Again, a journey of hope, and then the little heading at the bottom says when doctors gave us 1% chance of conceiving, because that's exactly how the message was given to us. And how we've done it is in chronological order from the first year that we got married all the way up to our 7 years where we finally had Seth. But the way we've written it is I reflect on my first year and then Brad reflects on his first year. Because what we did, like I said earlier, what I didn't know was that Brad was actually going through his own journey as well. And his emotions were coming through as well.
Absolutely. So it's almost like two books in one, where the wife can read Mandy's journey and the husband can read my journey.
Yeah.
And they don't even need to read the other party's journey itself. Like completely different storyline altogether. Because
but I also think, sorry, but I also think it's great. It would be great if you know when the husband actually reads the wife's journey and the wife reads the husband's journey, because they would then get to understand what each partner would be feeling or going through.
Right.
Because a lot of times when you're going through it, it's like you don't want to talk to your partners asking you what's wrong, but you can't tell them your inner feelings. You can't tell them this is how I'm feeling right now, and this is how it's affecting me. So that way it's like absolutely perfect. You guys did it this way. So ladies, if you want your husbands to understand, I'm taking over now, sorry for 2 minutes.
Please go for
but
it.
if you want your husband to understand what it is that you are going through or how you're feeling, this is the perfect book for this, because they could then, it's almost like they're going to be reading what it is that you're feeling. And on the other hand, you can be reading. Yeah, and you guys can actually see, oh, these other couples that's dealing with this, and this is how it made them feel. So obviously, this part of that would be, reflect on yourself as well and what you're going through. Please continue.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think one other thing as well was we got a lot of apologies from our inner circle, those closest to us that walked the journey with us. After they read the book, they came and apologized with tears, saying that they actually didn't realize what our journey was. Yeah. And only after reading the book did they understand the depth of what we were going through. And they apologized because they felt that they could have been more supportive.
Right.
Yeah. And that was an eye-opener for us as well, because even those who are not struggling with infertility, but if you know someone who is going through the journey, even you need to know and be educated on how do you support that couple, because there's a lot of sensitivity around it, and you need to know not to ask those intrusive questions like, when is it your turn at the baby shower?
Yeah,
definitely. That's the worst. That's one of the worst. Everyone looking at you win.
Yes.
Win. Who's next?
Literally at some point you want to turn around and say, so did you know I had a miscarriage? Like, how do you respond to that one?
Exactly. You're gonna leave him blown, not being able to know what to say. Wow, thank you guys. So can they contact you? They've got Mandy and Brad as a Facebook page, Believe Again, and an Instagram page as well. So I'm sure you can, if you're looking at purchasing the book, you can contact them directly. And I will leave the details as well. You can just find it on our Instagram page. I will be posting this to the Facebook page as well. We have over 20,000. I think we're 21,000 today. 21,000 followers and 20,500 people that like the page. So that's a nice big audience there. I'm going to be posting it there. Tag you guys in. So, because I think it's definitely, you know, this real women, real stories. I feel like I just constantly have goosebumps when I listen to stories like that.
Thank you.
Because it is hope. It brings so much hope to so many women and so many couples dealing with this. I've got to remember to say couples because it is a couples thing. It's not
It's a
just a
couple's
woman's thing.
journey.
It's a couples thing. Yeah, so there we've got Donna is definitely ready to, she's going to read your
Thank you,
book, guys.
Donna.
And she's saying thank you for sharing your story. There's so many women and it's so grateful, I think, for to listen to you guys.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks again. And I hope to chat to you guys soon. We should definitely do this
yes.
again over on
Please,
the Facebook
yes.
page.
And then you can come
Yeah,
on to
so
Believe again, and you can talk to us about your story, please.
yeah, I'm sure definitely open to that. Brad, thank you
Awesome.
so much for sharing your story. Again, I've never had a guy come on here and share their stories, so I'm sure it's helped. You know, it's going to help so many couples. I'm sure there's a woman that's going to show their husbands this and say, "Look at this." There's people that go through the same. Yeah, thanks again, guys. Have
Thank
a
you.
great.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
B.
Appreciate it.
It's a
Thank you so
pleasure,
much.
absolute pleasure. Have a great evening.
You
Bye.
too. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Okay, it's ended.